Now recently, one of the men convicted in the murder of rapper Julio Foolio was sentenced in court. His name is Sean Gathright. And unlike a lot of stories like this, what's making people pay attention isn't just the murder case itself. It's the fact that Shawn Gathright reportedly came from a good family, had a supportive upbringing, traveled the world growing up, and according to his own family, was surrounded by positive role models and older figures throughout his life.
You have characterized your and your brother Sean's childhood as a good, nice, loving childhood growing up. Isn't that true, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that both of you had wonderful, loving, supportive relationships. Isn't that true, ma'am? And specifically when talking about male role models, you said that he had a wonderful relationship with his stepdad, Brian.
Yes.
He also had a wonderful godfather. His grandmother, Lisa Gathright, you both had wonderful relationships with her as well.
Yes.
And her husband, before he passed away, your grandfather, both you and your brother Sean had an amazing, loving, supportive relationship with him as well.
But despite all that, Sean, alongside several other individuals, would eventually drive from Jacksonville to Tampa, Florida, where prosecutors say they carried out a targeted ambush that left rapper Julio Foolio dead. And in the process, Sean would end up destroying his own future forever. Not long after the murder, authorities would track Shawn Gathright down and arrest him in connection to the homicide. And by the end of the trial, Sean was crying in court, which raises a bigger question that honestly goes far beyond this case alone. How did we get here? And how does someone who seemingly had love, guidance, structure, and opportunity still end up making the worst decision of their entire life? Shawn Gathright was described by his sister as the type of little brother who was always joking around and messing with people. The two grew up extremely close in a military family and were rarely ever separated, despite constantly moving around growing up. His sister described Sean as funny, caring, and somebody who was always there whenever she needed him. And she recalled childhood memories of him wearing her sunglasses, turning her TV upside down for no reason, and constantly bothering her in the way younger brothers usually do. Growing up, Sean reportedly traveled to places like Japan, Scotland, Jamaica, London, Ireland, France, and even South Africa. He also participated in karate and sports, volunteered at church food pantries, and according to testimony in court, grew up surrounded by supportive family members and positive role models throughout his life. His sister also described him as a loving uncle who spent a lot of time helping take care of her child and playing with him around the house. So by most accounts, Shawn Gathright came across as a normal young man who had structure around him and people who genuinely cared about him. And honestly, that's what makes this case feel so disturbing to a lot of people watching it, because it's hard to picture this same person, the one described in court as funny, caring, well-traveled, and family-oriented.
Were you remorseful as you were running back with that AR-15 in your hands?
Like I said, I try to remember nothing from that night.
Later being seen in surveillance footage holding what prosecutors describe as an AR-style rifle and firing into a Dodge Charger during the ambush that killed rapper Julio Foolio. Now the story starts in Jacksonville, Florida. Shawn Gathright and several others made the drive down to Tampa on June 22nd, 2024. At the time, Foolio had been posting his location online throughout his birthday weekend.
The pool party start today at 5, 6 o'clock. If you already got the address, pull up.
And investigators believe the group used those public posts to track his movements across the city. The group traveled in two separate vehicles. One was a silver Chevy Cruze, the other was a black Chevy Impala, allegedly connected to Shawn Gathright through his mother's registration. So this car was quite literally registered to his own mother's name. However, it was noted that this was mainly used as his own personal vehicle. By the time they reached Tampa, prosecutors say the group checked into an Airbnb, located just minutes away from where the murder would eventually happen. At that point, everything still looked normal on the surface. Just another group of young people in another city during a weekend trip. But according to court documents, the real reason they came to Tampa started unfolding later that night. Investigators say the group began following Foolio's movements across the city after he publicly posted locations tied to his birthday celebration. Prosecutors claim the silver Chevy Cruze allegedly acted almost like a lookout vehicle, locating Foolio and the people around him before the black Chevy Impala connected to Sean would later arrive nearby. The first stop prosecutors mentioned was Teaser's Gentleman's Club, then another nightclub called Truth 18. Surveillance footage, phone records, and location data allegedly placed both vehicles near those locations throughout the night. And prosecutors claim Shawn's phone actually became one of the biggest pieces tying the entire timeline together. The court documents state that Shawn's phone allegedly continued appearing near every major location connected to Foolio that particular night. And eventually, everything led back to a hotel called Home 2 Suites in Tampa. Foolio and the people he was with had reportedly returned to the hotel during the early morning hours after moving around the city throughout the night. Shortly afterward, prosecutors say surveillance footage captured both suspect vehicles arriving near the hotel parking lot. But investigators say the way the vehicles moved inside the parking lot allegedly showed this wasn't random. The black Chevy Impala connected to Shawn took a longer route around the hotel, almost as if the people inside were trying to avoid being seen immediately. Then moments later, prosecutors say the silver Chevy Cruze drove past Foolio's parked vehicles multiple times before eventually leaving the area altogether. That's when the situation turned deadly. Around 4:38 that morning, prosecutors say 3 masked gunmen stepped out of the black Chevy Impala and began moving through the hotel parking lot on foot. Sean Gathright was one of those 3 individuals. Shawn was seen armed with an AR-style rifle during the shooting, and the surveillance footage showed one of the riflemen carrying a weapon, equipped with what investigators believed was a brass catcher, a device designed to prevent shell casings from falling onto the ground. Then suddenly, gunfire erupted across the parking lot. Multiple shots were fired directly toward the Dodge Charger Foolio was sitting inside as the vehicle attempted to speed away through the parking lot. Foolio then tried diving into the back seat as bullets tore through the vehicle, striking him in the chest and the back. 3 other people inside were also wounded during the shooting before one of the vehicles eventually crashed nearby, and within seconds, the gunman disappeared back into the night. But according to investigators, the story didn't end in the parking lot. In the hours after the shooting, prosecutors say the suspects allegedly split up and began making their way back toward Jacksonville. Shawn allegedly drove the black Chevy Impala to a family member's house in Polk County. Roughly 12 hours after the murder, surveillance cameras captured Shawn unloading bags from the vehicle before transferring items into another SUV, registered under his mother's name. Shawn was also later seen wiping down parts of the Impala, including the door handles and portions of the interior. And that right there became one of the clearest signs to investigators that Shawn was now starting to panic. Because by this point, investigators say the digital trail surrounding the murder was already beginning to close in around everyone involved. Phone records, license plate readers, surveillance footage, Airbnb cameras, Uber records. Nearly every moment tied to the trip from Jacksonville to Tampa was reconstructed piece by piece. Then just days later, Shawn was pulled over in Jacksonville while driving a different SUV. Officers allegedly discovered ammunition, firearm parts, and bags prosecutors believe may have been connected to the aftermath of the shooting. And as investigators continued searching deeper into the case, things became even worse for Shawn. When authorities later searched his home, investigators found multiple rifles inside a safe, including one equipped with a brass catcher, similar to the one described during the shooting at the hotel. And eventually, all this evidence they discovered surrounding Foolio's murder became impossible to ignore, and they basically connected all the dots. One by one, arrests started coming in. The silver Chevy Cruze, prosecutors say, had tracked Foolio throughout Tampa, was eventually located in Georgia. Rashad Murphy, which was one of the suspects, was allegedly behind the wheel when police attempted to stop the vehicle. Then in the weeks that followed, Shawn and the others connected to the case were eventually arrested and charged in connection to the murder of Julio Foolio.
Keep coming. Keep coming. Walk back to me. Put your hands behind your back.
And just like that, a trip that allegedly started as retaliation in an ongoing Jacksonville gang war had now turned into one of the biggest rap-related murder cases in recent years. But what makes this story especially disturbing is how normal everything looked in the beginning. A drive to another city, an Airbnb, nightclubs, friends moving around during a birthday party weekend, and then just within a few hours, multiple lives were destroyed forever. And eventually the story that started with a drive from Jacksonville to Tampa ended inside a courtroom. For nearly a month, the jury listened as prosecutors laid out what they believed happened during Julio Foolio's final hours alive. The state argued that Sean Gathright and the others tracked Foolio across Tampa after he publicly posted locations tied to his birthday weekend online. Jurors were shown surveillance footage, phone records, license plate reader data, Airbnb footage, and videos from the hotel parking lot where the shooting occurred. All of this evidence eventually led back to Shawn and the other suspects. and Shawn's phone had appeared near multiple locations connected to Foolio that night. His black Chevy Impala was allegedly seen moments before the shooting, and prosecutors claim surveillance footage later captured Shawn cleaning the vehicle afterwards, when he was basically trying to clean it so they wouldn't really catch the DNA on the car, but obviously he was already cooked at that point, right? Now, as the trial continued, Shawn started standing out from the others involved in the case, because unlike some of the other defendants, prosecutors never argued that Shawn himself was actually a gang member. And during a specific phase of this trial, the jury were introduced to a completely different image of Shawn. His family described him as intelligent, funny, and raised in a stable home with positive role models around him. Shawn attended college prep schools, took college classes, and traveled internationally growing up while his parents served in the military. And honestly, that's what made the case feel so disturbing to a lot of people following it, because prosecutors were now arguing that this same young man ended up in a hotel parking lot at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, firing an AR-style rifle into a car full of people. At one point, Shawn himself even took the stand, fighting back tears, and told the jury he felt very remorseful and apologized to Foolio's family and the other victims.
To the victim's family, I want to send my deepest condolences, and I understand that it's hard losing a child, a best friend, a brother, a cousin, and for that I just cannot say sorry enough. I feel terrible about the situation, but I'm a firm believer that God can use anything for good.
But prosecutors argue that the murder was cold and calculated and carefully planned from the beginning. Then finally, after weeks of testimony and nearly 8 hours of deliberation, the jury reached its verdict. Sean Gathright was found guilty of first-degree murder in the killing of Julio Foolio. This is a story of a young man who, according to nearly everyone who testified for him, came from a good family, traveled the world, attended college prep schools, and had never seriously been in trouble before any of this. Although, according to investigators, Shawn was also allegedly connected through ballistic evidence to a previous 2023 attempt on Foolio's life months before the murder in Tampa. So obviously he was involved in something, but that's what makes this entire story feel so disturbing. Because somewhere between all those opportunities, influences, decisions, and relationships, everything went completely wrong. At the time of me recording this video, Sean Gathright is facing the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars or even the death penalty. Either way, the life he once had is gone forever. What a waste of life. If you made it this far, drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new here. And honestly, I'm really curious what you guys think about this entire case, because stories like this really make you realize that having opportunities around you doesn't always protect you from yourself. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace, I'm out.